Explaining Postmodernism. We're diving into a sharp, provocative book by philosopher Stephen Hicks that traces the intellectual roots of postmodernism all the way back to the late 18th century and explains why it became such a dominant force in academia and culture by the end of the 20th. First, a quick spoiler-free teaser. This is intellectual history with real bite. It argues that postmodern skepticism isn't just some random academic fad. It grew out of a long chain of philosophical moves that started as a reaction against reason, science, individualism, and capitalism. And the political angle is huge. When certain big utopian projects kept failing in the real world, the thinkers who believed in them didn't give up the dream. They switched strategies, turning to relativism and language games as their new weapons. The core argument kicks off with a clear contrast. The Enlightenment vision celebrated reason as our tool for knowing reality, science as progress, individualism as moral, and liberal capitalism as the system that delivers freedom and prosperity. Charts in the book lay it out neatly. Naturalism, objectivism, tabula rasa, harmony of interests, wealth creation, happiness. Postmodernism flips every one of those. Anti-realism. There's no objective reality we can know. Social subjectivism. Truth is constructed by language and power. Human nature isn't blank and autonomous. It's shaped by race, sex, class. Interests aren't harmonious. There's zero-sum conflict and oppression. The goal isn't individual liberty but enforced equality and solidarity. Science and technology, suspicious at best, tools of domination at worst. So how did we get here? First, the failure of epistemology. Reason took a beating starting with Kant, who argued we can't know things in themselves. Our minds impose structure, so necessity and universality are subjective. That gap between subject and object couldn't be crossed by reason. Some thinkers went metaphysical. Hegel identified subject and object dialectically, making reality a product of collective spirit. Others went irrational. Kierkegaard leaped with faith. Nietzsche celebrated will to power over truth. By the 20th century, Heidegger synthesized the irrational strain, and analytic philosophy's positivist wing collapsed into Kuhn-style paradigm relativism and Rorty's pragmatism. Reason ends up looking incompetent, contingent, and unable to reach objective truth. Second, the failure of socialism. Classical Marxism predicted capitalism would collapse and the masses would revolt. It didn't. Lenin tried vanguard revolution, Mao tried agrarian. It still didn't deliver prosperity or morality. 1956 was devastating. Khrushchev revealed Stalin's horrors, Hungary rose and was crushed. Later revelations about Mao, Pol Pot, and others piled on. Over 110 million deaths under communist regimes, while liberal capitalism kept producing wealth, longevity, comfort. The left couldn't admit the vision was wrong, so they adapted. First, shift the moral standard from satisfying need, capitalism was doing that too well, to enforcing equality. Then Frankfurt School cultural critique, new left activism, even terrorism in the 70s. When that collapsed too, the academic left turned to figures like Foucault, Lyotard, Derrida, Rorty, philosophers already steeped in skepticism and far-left politics. Now epistemology meets politics. If language doesn't connect to reality, if it's just a self-referential system, then words aren't for discovering truth. They're for persuasion, power, unmasking. Deconstruction isn't about finding meaning. It's endless leveling. Rhetoric isn't complementary to cognition. It's a substitute in a world without truth. The deepest driver, the book argues, is ressentiment. The modern world delivered what the Enlightenment promised. Reason works, individuals flourish, capitalism creates abundance. But that very success is unbearable to those invested in the opposite vision. So the strategy becomes destructive. Attack confidence in reason, smear achievements as racist or exploitative, use contradictory discourse because consistency is a bourgeois pretense. It's Iago whispering poison, Duchamp scribbling on the Mona Lisa. Destroy what you can't equal. The book closes by saying this isn't harmless academic play. Nihilism can be dangerous, and the only real defense is completing the Enlightenment project. Fully articulate and defend reason, reality, individualism against these attacks. Themes and analysis. This is unapologetically polemical. It doesn't pull punches connecting skeptical epistemology to collectivist politics, or calling out the psychology of envy and revenge. The tone is confident, almost combative. Lots of charts, clear contrasts, historical sequencing that makes the story feel inevitable. It's not neutral survey. It's an argument that postmodernism is a coherent but mistaken reaction born of philosophical and political crisis. A couple standout lines. The failure of epistemology made postmodernism possible, and the failure of socialism made postmodernism necessary. And on the strategy, like Iago, postmodernism does not have to get the girl in the end. Destroying Othello is enough. Look, if you're puzzled why so much contemporary discourse feels like endless deconstruction, power analysis, and suspicion of science or liberalism, this book gives a historical roadmap that's hard to dismiss. It's dense in places with philosophy names, but the through line is crystal clear and the stakes feel high. Stay curious, stay free.